C4, Stun Gun, RPG, FCAR, Defibrillator, Mines, SA-1216, SH-1900, Flamethrower, all of these things are shells of their former selves in the finals. This is because the developers are constantly listening to player feedback, and the players are constantly complaining about things regardless of how much they've actually played the game. This means that pretty much everything in the game is significantly weaker than it used to be. While this does raise the time to kill, it also makes the gunplay feel worse, since more visual recoil or more complex recoil patterns are implemented as a roundabout way of nerfing things. Most stuff has been nerfed, and a lot of the nerfs were very, very heavy nerfs, while very few things have been buffed, and this makes the balancing feel pretty bad. For example, I remember when the RPG and Mines could one-shot lights, and instead of simply giving the light a HP buff, which has probably been long overdue for a while now, both Mines and RPGs were nerfed pretty heavily. Instead of letting players get used to how to counter things like the cloaking device by listening for audio or looking for the effect, the cloaking device was heavily nerfed. This is a clip from one of the betas. I can see this light from a very reasonable distance away, and I am able to just eliminate them. There is absolutely no need to be making the cloaking device less visible. In patch 2.8.0, however, all melee weapons were slightly buffed, and they do feel a lot better to use than they used to, aside from some bugs that they have. But it's very rare for Embark to buff so many things in one patch. I'm really hoping that this is a sign that they'll be buffing more things in the future, instead of continuously nerfing stuff. This game is obviously supposed to have a skill gap, made apparent by all the recoil patterns, so why would the skill gap then be lowered by catering to players that just don't really know what they're talking about when they're asking for nerfs? It just doesn't really seem to make much sense to me. I also want to mention that I know Embark have stated that they have their own tools that they use to balance everything, but it's also very clear that there's a distinct correlation between what the players want nerfed and what actually gets nerfed. One last thing I want to touch on is the destruction of the game. So Mines, C4, and the Breaching Charge used to be a lot more common before they were nerfed. So players would be destroying the arena much more. And that's kind of the selling point of the game, like having all of the destruction. But nerfing things that cause the destruction takes a lot of the fun out of it for me, and it does just kind of make the maps feel less unique, because instead of having a different map every time because of all of the destruction, you start to just kind of see the map as it is a lot more frequently. I'm going to use my frags and RPGs on players, not on a wall, so unless you run Sledgehammer or Charge and Slam, there's going to be significantly less destruction in the game than there used to be. So in the future, I just think it would be really cool to see pretty much everything get buffed instead of nerfed instead. I don't think anything good comes out of the nerfs. I think it makes the gunplay feel worse and the meta feel much more stale. Now, that's just kind of my opinion, but I think something that should definitely be done is for the devs to stop listening to the players when it comes to balancing changes, since I feel so far that really hasn't gone so well. I mean, there are 3 classes in the game, and one of them is pretty much unusable if you're playing competitively. So, just to recap, I think more buffs and fewer nerfs, along with not listening so much to players, would hugely benefit the game, and it is something I would definitely like to see in the future of the game. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.